Greetings, peace, and blessings. Bawani. Kedu. Welcome. Come on in. Greetings and salutations. Yo. Greetings, Queen Mother.
Greetings.
Thank you for being with us. We're going to get started momentarily. Welcome. Come on in. Greetings and salutations. We are now broadcasting live. We welcome you to come on in. Koyo in the Edu language. Welcome. You are now listening live and always an archive at your leisure and convenience to the Divine Prince, Pan-African spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Elagun Oloye Hoodoo Obeya Bokur, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. I am sponsored, promoted, supported by the New Orleans National Vodou Day. We are New Orleans National Vodou Day. You can find us at voodooday.org. V like Victor, O, D like David, O, U, D like David, AY, voodooday.org. Our annual, and this will be our second annual National New Orleans Voodoo Day. Will be our actual day of events. So we invite you to participate, join us, support us, sponsor us, send offerings and donations for us by way of www.voodooday.org. It's scrolling at the bottom of your screen, VODOUDAY.org. I am also joined by our beloved Kim P. Ford. Prayerfully, we won't have as many technical difficulties tonight. In the event that I lag or freeze, I just ask that you just be patient. Know that if it's not the top of the hour, I will.
Yeah, you froze a lagging right now.
I'm trying my best to fix it right now. But if I anyway damage my audio, please let me know. Queen Mother Kim Ford. Greetings, Ashley Marshall. Welcome. Come on in. We certainly appreciate your continued listenership, participation, and support. We've been talking about what is voodoo in all of its multifaceted, dimensional representations. The Fon language in West Africa denotes voodoo to mean spirit. But indeed, I correlate the word to also mean nature. And indeed, voodoo is present in all things nature, just as we suggest that God is indeed in all things nature. So too is voodoo in the earth, the plants, our bodies, our very selves. And certainly we honor and acknowledge God, Goddess, the divine beings, the divine creators in voodoo, but we also acknowledge its power as it dispersed itself out into the universe. Another way of looking at voodoo and what voodoo is, in my opinion, is to correlate it through the understanding and the hypothesis of string theory. String theory is easily, you can Google that, you can Bing that. String theory is very easy to pull up in your search bar, but it is the sort of intra-dimensional reality mechanism, strings, if you will, that hold our reality together. String theory is a theoretical physics concept that proposes reality is made of vibrating strings smaller than atoms, electrons, and quarks. It suggests that these strings produce effects that humans interpret as atoms, electrons, and quarks through their vibration, twist, and folds. I believe Albert Einstein best describes it mathematically in his proposal that in order for our reality to exist, we indeed need to coexist intra-dimensionally with at least 10 to 11 dimensional spaces simultaneously. Current versions of string theory, now called superstring theory or M theory, have 10 or 11 dimensions, three spatial dimensions, like those we're familiar with, up, down, left, right, back and forth, and certainly one and quite possibly two dimensional spaces that govern time as we know it. And we know we
Your audio went out again. You froze.
even the analog clock suggests its spherical, circular dynamics to what time really is, more like a crystal ball, if you will. And then so those other dimensional spaces therein occupy all things that we can envision, all things that we can imagine. Certainly those realities that scare us, that frighten us, exist in one or more of those interdimensional spaces. But so too do those things that we hope for, dream for, wish for, seek to co-create in unison with our reality. And so for me, string theory best demonstrates what voodoo, spirit, magic is in terms of our operating within it, outside of it, around it, certainly it operating within us, and our ability to create and recreate a reality that mirrors our best interests. We understand that the Black woman is God. We understand that the Indigenous woman is God. And this is not voodoo philosophy, but biology, DNA, that has determined that humans and humanity evolved from the womb, the cradle of Mother Africa, therefore denoting the Black woman as God. And so we all possess within the dynamics of our DNA God-like attributes, God-like qualities. In the Yoruba culture, they reference Iyami, 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 as the sacred and mysterious power of women. It is sometimes referenced as witchcraft, and particularly when it's used for darkness as opposed to light, for harm or destruction or retribution as opposed to creation, healing, wellness, and indeed balance. And so this God particle, I'm going to call it, is then passed down to us, through our great mothers, into our very bloodlines and bloodstreams, and then on to the next generation. It is absent in the teachings, intellectual teachings, spiritual, religious teachings, theoretical, psychological teachings of the West, that we separate ourselves from God. We separate ourselves from the spirit realm, if we believe a spirit realm exists at all. And it disempowers us from that, indeed, very connection. One of the things that drew me as a young person, at a very young age, to voodoo was sort of the self-empowerment element to it, as opposed to the, wait until the great by and by, wait until the great afterlife, and God will bless you if you just be good. I sat down last night, Sister Toni, Sister Kim, and really tried to remember when I sort of made that inner adjustment between the Black spiritualist church and the apostolic church that I was, a part of, and made that conscious shift to Aboriginal, Indigenous voodoo practice. And it happened the year after I went to a Christian junior high school. My parents kind of walked me into a Christian junior high, seventh grade. Eighth grade. In seventh grade, I went to Francis Scott Key Public School. They changed the name to Francis Scott Key Middle School now. And then in the eighth grade, they got me into this Clinton Christian Academy. And by the ninth grade, of course, I was back in the public school. Family. And certainly corporal punishment. There was a lot of paddling going on in this place. And it was the first time that I felt empowered, being a child of Chocolate City, the DMV of the 1970s, a Afro-wearing mother who introduced Kwanzaa and Negro spirituals and African culture into her curriculum as an educator. So it was really in this environment that I found my voice. And I found myself challenging, the math teacher, the science teacher, the Bible studies, teacher. And you may have heard me mention in previous episodes, growing up in the DMV, I had free range access to the Smithsonian Institute and all of its buildings and areas of focus, but also the public library. The Oxon Hill was my favorite, public library. And so I'm reading witchcraft, psychic, voodoo, cultural books, as early as elementary school, and certainly took on a bit more independent study in junior high and high school, because I was allowed, to get on the bus, get on the metro, to walk anywhere, that I felt like it in the DMV. My father felt that was, the way to make me a man. So I was often locked out of the house after school. I wasn't allowed to come straight home after the school. I had to go and hang with the boys, as my father used to say. But I would often end up at the museums and indeed at the library. And so I was exposed to the academic definitions of voodoo, the cultural, communal, community definitions of voodoo, the actual practice and language of voodoo, and so how it's referenced, how it's spoken of within the traditions. We talked about paths, we talked about lineage in our last episodes, and we talked about that being specific to regions. And one of the things that I loved about the Smithsonian was its willingness to demonstrate ethnocultural tradition, three-dimensionally. often with an audio and a video backup, to go along with it. A whole Yoruba village replicated, at the Smithsonian Nature Museum. A whole Ethiopian, village of a particular ethnic group, like the Nuba, for example. I remember when the Egyptian, the Kemetic setup was there, and they rebuilt a pyramid and had sarcophagi and ritual items, in the Smithsonian. So for someone who's yet to physically travel outside of the continental U.S., my exposure has certainly been through museums, study, reading, cultural practice, grassroots involvement at the community level where there are footprints of these traditions sort of being practiced and demonstrated. And as I explained in my last episode and many episodes previously, being a runaway kid helped me to gather the space and make the connections that I needed for eldership, for mentorship, for initiation at a very, very young age, so that by the time I was in my 30s, my 40s, this is my lifestyle. And so voodoo is indeed nature, but it is also a lifestyle. It is indeed a practice, as Sister Toni Val Martinez shared on a previous podcast, growing up with certain activities, rituals taking place within her household, within her environment, often without a real explanation, and then how her journey to self-discovery and education and understanding helped her to better understand what it is that she was witnessing and experiencing. I might be buffering just a little bit, but greetings, Kay King. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Daniel Neal, greetings and salutations. Tariq Lopez, welcome. Ashley Marshall, once again, greetings. And certainly to my co-host, Sister Toni Val Martinez, you can jump in at will. And Kim P. Ford, beloved, I keep trying to open your mic and it's not letting me. I just don't know what's going on with your system.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. There you are.
Okay.
Alafia. Greetings, Tariq. Come on in, both of you, and reintroduce yourselves. Share your greetings and salutations. I certainly want to open up the conversation to everyone under the viewership and the sound of my voice. I am going to pop the stream chat link into the chat box if you wish to turn on your camera and mic and join us. But anyone joining us that I don't know will be well vetted before I open up your camera and your mic. Certainly, if you have questions or comments that you want us to discuss openly, you can. I see in the chat box, and certainly allow Queen Mother and Sister Kim and allow them an opportunity to respond if they so wish. Come on in, Sister Kim. I see your camera still not cooperating.
Yes, it is still not cooperating, but I have a brand new camera that I'm in the process of getting connected right now as well. So
Okay.
something's going to happen. Something's going to happen
Yes.
today. And greetings, everyone. I am so honored again to be here another afternoon for this podcast and have the opportunity to listen and learn about things voodoo. And it really helps me to connect some dots It's very informative. I have enjoyed every moment of my participation in this podcast, and I just appreciate the opportunity. But I am, by trade preference, a community organizer. I believe in political accountability, and I have a knack for it also because I've been doing it. I've been very successful at holding elected officials accountable, and I love that work. I also am currently doing some prison advocacy as well, and it's just I love my life. I love what I do, and I'm intrigued by this yet new opportunity that I have been blessed. I must be living my life righteously to be able to be here with you guys. And thanks again. Any questions you having any trouble with? I'm also an expert in housing, affordable housing. If you have questions on that, anything like that, I have the Tree Shakers Radio Talk Show, and you can look us up on treeshakersradio.com. And that's a little bit about me, but I'm multifaceted. I love what you had to say, Prince Ty, about the love and the emotion and everything that women bring to the table. It's just refreshing to hear that. And it just made me feel good today because it's been a difficult day, but I'm feeling so much better now. And I'm glad that everyone is here and in the space because that's where they're supposed to be. Greetings.
Hi, Bobo. Well, thank you. Give thanks. Give thanks. Toni,
Thank
did you have
you.
something you want to share?
Hi, this is Sister Toni. Want to welcome everyone into the chat and onto the show. Queen Kim, great to have you here again tonight. Briefly, I am basically a grassroots activist. I have been out of the scene for a minute, but I want to come back. I also was a prison advocate for like 15 years, working with the various prison groups as the Nation of Islam, the Rastafarians, and even some Native American groups in the prison system across Louisiana, Angola, Hunts, DeQuincy, a lot of them. And also Parish Prison, which is where I started at with the prison work. Trying to re-educate some of our captive brothers to show them how the system was stacked against them. And I grew up in New Orleans. I was born in Chicago. And I feel that Spirit wanted me to come to New Orleans. I feel that I was here before, actually in another life. And I was brought back here through some strange circumstances as a baby that I had no control over. So I grew up in a household where my adoptive parents were both born in 1900. So I was in a unique place where most children my age, grandparents, my parents were their grandparents' age, and most children didn't live with their grandparents. They saw them on special occasions, but I lived it and got their knowledge daily. Daily, I grew up hunting, fishing, all of that. Picking cotton. My family originated in New Roads, Louisiana. My mother was a follower of Marcus Garvey, a dedicated follower of Marcus Garvey. So at an early age, I was taught religiously of the Blackness, of the Creator God, the angels, the saints, taught about us being stolen from Africa. I just am so glad I grew up with my parents, especially my mother, who was a
Mhm.
midwife in her young days, and a healer and a spiritual healer, and avid practitioner of voodoo, which I didn't find out that she was until I was in my 20s, because we never spoke about it as being voodoo. That word was never mentioned. It was just rituals and how we did things and how she did things in our house and why she did things. It was a constant presence of spirits in our house. It was the constant knowledge that there were evil spirits amongst us out in the world around us, and we had to protect ourselves from them.
Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so am I. I'm here. We here.
The last thing I heard was evil spirit.
Yes, and our house, in my household, I was constantly told that there were evil spirits, demons, and such.
Mhm.
Some had names, uh, fallen angels, and that we had to protect ourselves from evildoers, be them physical or spiritual.
Yeah, it sounds very akin to what would have been said, you know, certainly in the Black Spiritualist Church, then would have been again repeated in the evangelical environment, certainly using different language. But then as we journey and learn culture, languages, religions, traditions, we tend to find new language, new words to make that make sense. You know, I tend to be the diplomat when it comes to the undeserved that people often project at voodoo, because people, you know, develop fears, you know, and anxiety around what they will. But I dedicated my life in my ministry to the education and re-education of what voodoo truly is, in its most authentic demonstration, and how we all have the opportunity to live that out, to be that demonstration wherever you are, regionally, independently, by reconnecting with your own ancestral inheritance and practice, but then better understanding that of your community, your culture, your family, your people, and your lineage. But in these days and seasons that we exist in now, you know, I don't strive to be as diplomatic anymore. You know, I appreciate those who love the and support the teaching and the education and the classes and the information that I give. Thank you so much, Ashley Marshall, and sharing this space. But we've got to really take a more revolutionary position as it relates to our own heads, our own consciousness. Uh, Sister Kim shared how she works in regards to activism, advocacy. Sister Toni spoke on how she has worked in prison ministry, and I too have worked and continue to work in prison ministry, and have many clients who are incarcerated even now as we speak. But my domain is voodoo, and indeed voodoo has to first govern the head, consciousness, how we think, how we feel, how we understand God, how we understand ourselves, how we understand reality, and then our ability to affect change on that reality. And so the ritual, the spells, the amulets, the charms, the sacred spaces that we create, the altar spaces that our most ancient ancestors created, we're not just some artistic, demonstration of magic, but indeed each and every item, each and every ritual, each and every motion, each and every thought had a capsule of information attached to it. In Yoruba culture, Orisha culture, you might call that an Odu, O-D-U, when the divination is cast on the divining board, or the palm nuts are pounded within the palms of the practitioner, and Odu is created with a first and a second name. In Yoruba, it's also in Fan and in Ewe and in Akan and in Igbo culture. And it is with that Odu that we are able to unpack this capsule of information that allows us to get our questions answered, see into the past or the future, better understand how to address a particular request through an herbal preparation and concoction, or through the repetition of a particular ritual act or ceremony. Again, it's more than just prayer. It's more than just worship. The very motions and activity involved also seek to create rhythm, vibration, coding that then affects us all the way down to the DNA, cellular, molecular level. But then we expect that to affect and change our reality. For those of you who've been exposed to more traditional forms of church, Episcopalian, Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, that order of standing and sitting, and when you stand and when you sit, taking communion on Fifth Sunday. When do you do your baptisms? Some do that on the first Sunday. All of these designed to ability to honor and worship and participate actively in a spiritual practice or tradition. But again, it affects the rhythm, the coding that is natural and innate and inherent to earth life, and quite possibly universal life. We know that the planet is spinning at so many miles per hour, as is the universe spinning and turning and constantly moving. So even the illusion of stillness, isolation, is just an illusion. There is one of those 11-dimensional spaces in which we're always able to do that thing in which we seek. But there's also that parallel reality where there might be the block, the challenge, that thing that we seek to overcome. So voodoo brought a sense of empowerment for me, a kid on the street at 14, 15, 16, 17, walking up and down highways. I mean, major, the interstate, the Ohio Turnpike, traveling from place to place, city to city, town to town, not becoming a statistic, but becoming fully immersed in the spirit realm and the usage of my gifts. Often it was all I had was God and spirit in my gifts, just for sheer survival. And so now in this season of my life and this dispensation in which we are now living and existing in, including the next 4 presidents. Indigenous people, Aboriginal people, everywhere in the world. And again, voodoo, for those who have not yet listened to the last episode, is an umbrella term that represents Aboriginal, Indigenous spirituality and tradition, going back to not only Ile Ife in West Africa, but predates Ile, Ife, some would say Kemet, Egypt, Lemuria, Ethiopia, Atlantis, the usage of organic materials to recreate a reality that mirrors our best interests. Certainly when we eat fruit and vegetables for our body in nourishment, we don't think about that in the moment necessarily as a magical act until we begin to think about it in terms of biology, chemistry, what is actually happening, what's breaking down where, and how messages are sort of transported, through our physical bodies. And so as it is above, so shall it be below. As is the macrocosm, the greater universe, so too is the microcosm, the smaller versions, the smaller dimensional spaces of our reality. And so we nourish ourselves through nature, just as nature often nourishes itself through nature, whether it be plant or animal or a microbe. And so in a more, when I start talking about the past, in terms of technology, science, we've been so miseducated and lied to about what our ancestors knew and understood, and how they knew and or understood. Sometimes, finding the right words in terms of civilization. So we don't want to say, before we were civilized. We don't want to say before, the white man constructed his own, system of understanding reality. Certainly, we have demonstrations from very sophisticated cultures of their use of magic, leaning to their understanding of math, science, biology, quantum metaphysics, if you will. And many of the so-called stories and fairy tales and uh, uh, um, praise phraseology, a poem-like phraseology, psalms and proverbs and all sorts of systems throughout Aboriginal and indigenous society. We've been taught, oh, it's just a song, oh, it's just a rhythm, oh, it's just something archaic people did, while at the same time being in complete denial, if not lying outright, about the evidence of science, technology, and a higher degree of understanding that our ancestors left us as a breadcrumb, as a trail of understanding to bring us to this point where we are today. And so as we move forward, protesting will be necessary, but it will not be enough. Marching will be necessary, but it will not be enough. Education will be necessary, but it will not be enough. The art of war will be necessary, but it will not be enough. And so our greatest strength, our greatest power lies in the very God consciousness that we possess. And so whether we debate semantics, whether we debate religions and systems and various spiritual paths, ultimately the goal should be, and certainly is in this space, the empowerment of ourselves, the empowerment of our people, the empowerment of our community, and ultimately the empowerment of the planet as a whole. Pan-African has taken on a new meaning in 2025. Global awareness, voodoo worldwide. Technology has certainly made the world a lot smaller and easier to access across language boundaries, across regional, geographic, cultural, religious boundaries. You just have to know where those spaces are. And so we seek, both myself and NONVD, New Orleans National Voodoo Day, to utilize this space to not only teach and educate and re-educate and really give people a better understanding of what these practices under this umbrella of voodoo are, but to utilize them, to step in them boldly and fully in 2025 and moving forward, to find answers and solutions to many of the challenges that we all face, both on a personal level, at a community level, at a governmental level, and certainly regionally and globally. Ashley Marshall says these shifts require us to move towards new ways of thinking and living. It can be scary, but worth moving towards. And she's excited to be a part of this movement. Honor and respect. A queen successfully defended and won. Greetings, beloved. Loving that username. Queen successfully defended and won. You got to create and recreate your reality. First and foremost, it's in the power of your words, the power of your thoughts. Love that username. She says you all give her hope. We give her hope for the future. All of us. And she's grateful to be here. Hafiz, I think that a lot of people in the practice are not aware of the shift in the planets too. I absolutely agree with that. There's a lot of miseducation and delusion and entertainment and shenanigans, going on. And again, as I was trying to say, I tend to be a diplomat. Kim knows me, Queen Mother Toni knows me, my community here locally knows me as a man of few words, surprisingly. But when I say, it has gravity. Now, there's a whole nother side to me that only, my sister wife knows, Toni Val knows, my mama knows, my you have as being aggressive or too much or too black or too African, and we learn to diminish ourselves, lessen ourselves. Queen successfully defended and won. We learn to sort of get by in our workspaces, in our job environments, in our family environments, at the family reunion. We often don't necessarily agree or meet eye to eye, with our peer group. And so we have learned ways of getting along, to play fairly. And so we either don't say, or we diminish what we say, or we lessen what we say in some environments. And in other environments, it's a lot of, screaming and shouting and trying to make, points and get points across. But, we now exist in a time, in a space where we can create healthy, safe, holistic environment for not only healing, but also for empowerment. And listen, the shenanigans, I could easily, go off a cliff and just, my critique and my complaint about the shenanigans. All of us in this room are in social media. I don't have to tell y'all what the shenanigans are, what the shenanigans look like. We're not in competition with the shenanigans. And I had to really get that understanding, even for, myself. I see demonstrations of spirituality and religion and tradition and practice every day in social media that don't line up with what's true or what's authentic or what's healthy or even what's safe. And we've got this thing now. We've graduated from the gossip pages to, Sally and Jesse, Raphael, Phil Donahue, Oprah, Montel Williams, that generation, to the generation of Jerry Springer, Steve Wilkos, Ricky Lake, to what we now have, reality TV. And so that has now found its way into social media. Some of the most popular, in fact, I have a post in TikTok that has close to 1 million views. It is not spirituality and religion. It's not politics. It's not education. It's not edifying. It's a series of clips of someone else's drama that I edited together and posted up, really as a science experiment. And it went absolutely viral. But you don't often get, knowledge, what's powerful, to go viral, unless it has some salacious, tantalizing, gossip-worthy element to it. For those of you who know who Miss Netta and Charles are, I've seen that go from, somebody, playing around with the technology from their kitchen to an industry, an income, millions of views and followers, thousands of duplicate profiles, being created, to now a whole cadre of people who whole platform is just to talk about Netta and Charles, denigrate Netta and Charles, say negative things about Netta and Charles. And on the one hand, I see that as, freedom of speech, freedom of technology, capitalism, run amok. But I also see it as an opportunity for people to possibly say things about certain people and certain demographics that yesterday, 5 years ago, would have been seen as politically incorrect or not cool. And so now this affords that opportunity for you to say those hateful, nasty things that you've been wanting to say. And YouTube and Twitter now affords that opportunity. I just think TikTok made it more visible and made it more accessible and showed to the greater internet community the availability of income for doing so. Many of you still haven't figured out how to monetize yourself.
Yeah.
Many of you still haven't figured out that you need to monetize yourself. Many of you haven't figured out that every move of your mouse, every peck at your keyboard, every page that you open or close or scroll through creates a 1 or 0, just like the binary coded system that governs Fa divination, Ifa divination. An X or an O, or a 1 or a 2, or a 1 and a 0, a binary coded system. And each time that code is being created, there's a dollar attached to it. Now, who's getting the dollar? Well, certainly first and foremost, Microsoft or Dell or whoever you bought your product from, whoever owns, created your hardware, your software, your applications. But then whoever created, the social network, Facebook, the Twitter owner, and those shareholders. But where's your dollar? And how do you ensure the value of your binary code footprint, online? And so there's interdimensional spaces to all reality. There's many levels to understanding anything. And so this tool can, be seen as a virtual universe, a virtual cosmos, if you will, of its own, with various locations and regions and destinations that we can search and look for. And it's open, the illusion of openness to everyone. Certainly if we start counting, how much it costs and your, internet bill, your electric bill, your access to internet, and, it's an illusion. Nothing is free. Free is an illusion, but it presents the, free in social media and online and on the internet. And so if you're not savvy, if you're not smart, if you don't know how to research or use a dictionary or a thesaurus or search something, and it's not just having access to, the search bar. You've got to know what words and what combination of words to put in the search bar, to pull up the responses and the information that you're often seeking, particularly when we start talking about Aboriginal, Indigenous culture and tradition and practice, spirituality, religion, voodoo. You type voodoo in with 4 O's, and certainly you're going to get a plethora of information, authentic as well as entertainment and fictional, from us, from all of us who've ever typed that word, who've ever entered that word, who've ever showed interest in voodoo, who've ever searched it, who've ever commented, liked, shared, followed a post, uh, you know, built in it. But if you change those 4 O's to VODOU, you get a completely different response in your search engine. And AI has made this even more easier to see. I like Google, and you go into Google now, and at the very top of the page, the first response you often get is AI. AI's way of scanning the entire internet and then kind of coming back with it as brief and as simplistic of an explanation for whatever you are searching as possible. And so for O's, you get one response. D, O, U, you get another response. You start typing in region, Benin, Togo, Ghana, Syria, Haiti, Brazil, you get a completely different response. And so if you know nothing about a subject, i.e. voodoo, and you just kind of want to know, and you think, the quick search is going to give you that answer. No, it's not. And that has now been replicated in social media with the content creator. So we now have content creators, hashtag Hoodoo, Voodoo, Conjure, Root Work, spirituality, African spirituality, religion, ATR, Santeria, Lukomi, witchcraft, whatever it might be. And they are often doing copying and mimicking something that Toni Val and I got really good at back in the early 2000s Yahoo 360 page, which was finding. I know I started by finding a different ethnic group in West Africa, sharing the name, the location, the present day country, and then I would share their voodoo using their language. So their ethno-cultural language for the practice, for the tradition, a little bit about the divination, a little bit about the deities. And so that grew up, in TikTok and Instagram and other platforms. So you now have professional copy and paste content creators who are basically searching and researching, voodoo, spirituality, and religion, and are partnering it with, nice photos, now creative AI, video, and they're getting mass followers because many of you are searching and you're looking for information. But the more studied, the more experienced, the more learned, the often initiated persons see the same post, and we know what's a copy and paste. We know what's from experience, lived experience. Um, Even in the posting of video and picture documentation, uh, you're still having to fill in the words, the blanks, the language. Many of our Haitian family and our West African family member are now using social media to stream whole ceremonies, whole festivals. But there's often not a moderator. There's often not an announcer. There's often not someone teaching, explaining what's being seen, why it's happening, where it's happening, when it's happening. And so there's still that gap in information. Early on in the TikTok phenomenon, I kind of pulled back for that reason. Some of you have been following me, listening, participating in this podcast since Hurricane Katrina, since my Blog Talk radio days, when I was podcasting 2 to 4 hours a day, sometimes 7 days a week. And it got to be too much, educating folk so that y'all could go out into TikTok and the like and try and duplicate, what I had established. And so I pulled back for a minute to learn, to see, to experience, to learn the technology, to learn some new sites, and I'm taking note early in 2025 that very few people are actually teaching. Very few people are actually giving you the information that self-empowers. I often say in the middle of my calls, I don't seek codependent clientele. I don't want clients that, need to call me for a reading every time they decide, what color they're going to wear today, what the weather or average challenges that we all got to deal with every day. And I'm sure you understand that, Sister Kim. We've got to get to a place where we can be stable enough on our own so that we can fight for others.
That's right. That's right.
Fight for themselves
and you always are your best advocate, no matter what. It's nobody better to tell your story than you. But if you don't want to repeat mistakes that have been made, you have to be able to listen and learn and move forward with to be honest, where you can learn from what's already been done. So as you move forward and you grow, you always, when you don't grow anymore, you're not here anymore. So while you're here, you need to be growing and learning and moving and living. Carpe diem, seize the moment. Now is the time. Now is the time.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Yes.
Because I am an advocate, I am an activist, and there is a difference between the two. But an advocate is that you help to support people, but I also believe in helping people just like you, Prince Ty. I believe that people have to learn to be able to stand up for themselves. And I will help you fight all day long. But I'm not going to help you fight. Well, I'm not going to fight for you while you stay home and watch me. Nope.
What they say, we're in that FOFA season right now, particularly Black women who got up, got out, got the vote in, and have always got up, got out, and got the vote in and fought for our community, only to be disappointed this time around. And so, for the rest of us, and certainly for the community as a whole, we've got to come together like the 1950s, the 60s, and the 70s. In case you haven't noticed, we don't have a choice.
Right.
In case the orange clown hasn't reminded you by rolling back, articles, by rolling back civil rights, by rolling back some of the liberties and freedoms that we have come to take for granted. We have to fight like Mama Moses. We got to fight like Harriet Tubman. We got to fight possibly like Nat Turner.
Yeah. And the sooner the better, because the longer we take, the harder we're gonna have to fight to get it back. the few achievements that we have made have been just so quickly disregarded and practically erased. The history books are being erased right now. So yeah, but and I've been saying for a long time, but one thing I do know is that you cannot get changed by doing the same thing. You have to stay ready to do the work. And it's easy to sit back and point a finger. But if you're not out here, the revolution is going on right now. And if you don't know, I'll tell you, it is. And if you're not involved in it, that means you need to make some changes.
That's right. And it never stops. Let's be clear, it never stops.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a long game. So each generation learns something, develops something that must be passed on to the next generation in order for us to win the long game. Please,
it must be passed on.
Don't struggle to learn the whole thing all over again, brand new.
Because you got a few great ideas. It's good that people have ideas, and I see us as being a very resourceful people. We didn't make 400 years, which included being in chattel slavery, being kidnapped and forced into chattel slavery, to come this far, to go back to that again, where someone could come in, lift us off our feet and take us into chattel slavery in another country. That's an insult to the ancestors. We have got to do better than that. I don't want, when my time comes and I have to go before the ancestors, I'm not going to be the one that's going to be able to say, no, I didn't fight to uphold your legacy and the work that you've done. I'm not going to be that one because my name is on the rolls. My name is on the roll. I've done the work, but I definitely have love for my community, and I'm excited about this effort. Can't wait until the festival gets here, and we need to talk about how we're going to do that, because we need to broadcast it live. We need to have it available to just be the boom that I'm expecting it to be. And the people that are here, that are listening to the sound of my voice, have a unique opportunity to participate in that process.
Yes, Sister Kim and I are going to stream National New Orleans Voodoo Day, April 5th and 6th, but particularly April 6th. We're going to stream that. And we're certainly going to invite you, those of you who cannot be here, to join us and participate. But certainly if you are here and you have access to New Orleans, you still have time to get your travel and your lodging and all of your necessities in place for April 5th and April 6th.
And if you need help with that, if y'all need help with that, then hit us up and let us know you do, and we'll see what we can do to help you as far as where to make your accommodations, as far as planning your itinerary, as far as getting you in a network with other people so that you will be able to know where you're going and what you're doing as well.
Not just where to eat and where to club at, though. We can do that too.
We'll do that too, of course.
Listen, thank you so much, Sister Kim, for coming through. Thank you, Queen Mother Val. It's been a great hour. Listen, I invite everyone in the chat to continue to support us, to return. Join us. Clean off that webcam and unmute that mic and join us. And certainly for all you witchy folk, our palm readers and our psychics and our spiritualists and our tarot readers and our voodoo practitioners within our community and from without our community, but who seek to support us, we also invite you to come and be a co-host on this podcast. And let's really get into some really meaningful discussions about voodoo. And so we welcome you and we invite you to join us weeknights, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, here on my station, youtube.com/The Divine Prince. You can also share, like, enjoying the streaming from Queen Mother Martinez and from Sister Kim Ford's social media outlets and where they might post the link. So until next time, remembering that all is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veils, for it's all just an illusion and a test, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. No matter what you do, respect the voodoo. Respect the voodoo. Aye, Bobo. Have a good evening, Sister
Deuces.
Mother
Peace. Love y'all.
Toni Val. Thank you to all
Peace.
those in the chat. I'll see you again tomorrow night at 9 p.m.
All right. Bye.